Study skills in English, Michael J Wallace. The first chapter, Introduction. What is happiness? Why are some people happier than others? This new edition of Psychology of Happiness provides a comprehensive and up-to-date account of research into the nature of happiness. Major research developments have occurred since publication of the first uh, edition in 1987. Here they are brought together for the first time, often with surprising conclusion, drawing on research from the discipline of sociology, psychology, economics, as well as psychology. Michael Argala explores the nature of positive and negative emotions, the psychological and cognitive process involved in their generation. Accessible and wide range coverage is provided on key issues such as measurement and study of happiness, the effect of friendship, marriage, and other relationships on positive moods, happiness, mental and physical health, the effect of work, employment, and leisure, and the effect of money, class, and education. The importance of individual personality traits such as optimism, purpose in life, internal control, and having the right kinds of goals is also analyzed. New to this edition is additional material on national differences, the role of humor, money, and effect of religion. Are some countries happier than others? This is just one of the controversial issues addressed by the author along the way. Finally, the book discusses the practical application of research in this area, such as how happiness can be enhanced and the effects of happiness on health, altruism, and sociability. This definitive and thought-provoking work would be compulsive reading for students, researchers, and the interested general reader. This new edition is an excellent, updated synthesis of the research in what has been a very successful area of advance in social psychology, due in no small measure to Michael Ergel's own work in the field. W. Peter Robinson, Professor of Social Psychology, University of Bristol. This book is bigger and better than first edition. The author has definitely kept up with the progress in the field and has summarized it well. Adrian Foreman, Professor of Psychology, University College London. Michael Ergel's book gives an excellent broad overview of the scientific field of subjective well-being, the study of happiness, life satisfaction, and positive effects. Readers will discover many interesting and even exciting new facts about happiness at the same time. This is not a difficult read. Argyle has done an outstanding job of introducing readers to an exciting new scientific field in the study of human behavior. Ed Diner, Professor of Psychology, University of Illinois. Michael Argyle is Emeritus Reader in Social Psychology at Oxford University, Fellow of Wolfson College and Emeritus Professor of Psychology at Oxford Brookes University. He is the author of many books including The Social Psychology of Everyday Life, 1992, The Psychology of Social Class, 1993, The Psychology of Money, 1998, Psychology and Religion, 1999, all published by Routledge. Next page. Using the index. The main purpose of an index is to enable you to locate specific information quickly and efficiently. It can also tell you a lot about the content covered in a book. Sometimes a book will have, for example, a subject index, that is topics covered, and an author index, that is the authors of books referred to in the text. If you cannot find a reference in the index for a particular word or phrase, try thinking of a likely synonym, that is, a word which means the same or almost the same, or the word is related to meaning in some other way. For example, if you could not find a reference for chair, you could try a more general word like furniture and vice versa. Abbreviations and unusual words are sometimes used in indexes, such as abbreviation F or FF, sometimes without the full stop, meaning and the pages which follow in the Latin word passim, meaning throughout the book article or throughout the specified section of the book article. Using the index. On the next page, you'll find the subject index of the psychology of happiness. Use the index to answer the following questions. What pages might you refer to if you were interested in the connection between health and happiness? If you were a student of economics, which pages might you find helpful? Let us suppose you were interested in reading about a possible connection between how much people earn, these earnings, and how happy they are. You will see there is no entry in the index. Under earnings, can you think of a possible useful synonym? Do you think that the people feel happier when it is sunny? Does this book discuss this issue? How you may have to check the index under a related word. If you were interested in studying possible connections between how happy people are and which countries they come from, which pages might you want to look at? Subject index. You have to look this one in order to understand the subject index. It's a code word with the letters, words. Now let's come to the next page. Is survey surveying a text beginning and endings. Below are some more tips on how to quickly survey a text. Read through the following tips on using first and last chapters and serving articles and chapters. Think about whether they will be useful for you when you text 5. Using first and last chapters of books. We have been looking at some ways in which you can do a quick survey of a book by skimming throughout it. Other parts of a book worth looking at are the first chapters and the last chapters. In the first chapter, the author sometimes outline what topics he is going to deal with in the book, why he is interested in those topics, and how he is going to deal with them. This information can give you an idea about how useful the book is going to be to you, and possibly also on which parts of the book you are going to concentrate. The last chapter is often invaluable for survey purposes because the writer may summarize his main arguments and list his conclusion. This may sometimes will be all you need to know. At the very least, knowing where the author's arguments is heading should make it easier for you to understand the book. So make a habit of looking at the last chapter first. Surveying journals, articles, and book chapters. At the beginning of many journals, articles, and also occasionally at the beginning of chapters in books, you will find an abstract of the article or chapter. If the abstract has been properly written, it should give a helpful summary of the content of the article chapter. This is obviously extremely useful, so abstracts should be read very carefully. Just as it is useful to look at the beginning and ending of a book, it is also usually helpful to read the first and last paragraphs in the articles or chapters for the same reasons. Predictions and surveys. The title of the next passage is Malaria, a new threat. Malaria has been a threat to humanity for thousands of years. Here is a called a new threat. Have you any ideas to explain the title? Now quickly survey the passage by reading the first and the last paragraphs. These paragraphs have been printed in italics, then seeing if you can answer the question. Why does the writer call malaria a new threat? If you are in a group, compare your answer. Read quickly through the whole passage to see if you can find the answers to the question below. Time yourself by noting your starting time and finishing time and checking your reading speed. See the reading speed chart that follows the key. Writer, write down your answer to the questions. If you are in a group, compare your answers. What two ways have been tried to prevent the mosquitoes from using their breeding grounds? What ingenious modern methods of biological engineering has been used against the mosquito? Can you find the three other methods that have been used to combat malaria? What two methods are not as effective as they used to be? Malaria, a new threat. Malaria has been the scourge of humanity since the earliest time, and there are ominous signs that it is fighting back against modern science. In this short article, we will be looking at the advances that have been made in the fight against malaria in modern times. We will also be discussing why, despite of these advances, malaria has still not been eradicated and in some ways poses a greater threat to humanity than ever. The first great breakdown in the treatment of malaria was the discovery by Sir Ronald Ross during the period 1895-98 that the disease was transmitted by the female Anopheles mosquito. Then Gavin and Grayson worked out the life cycle of the human malaria parasites with the connection between malaria and the mosquito clearly established steps could be taken to fight the disease. One method was to stack the breeding place of the mosquito. It was known that mosquitoes might lay their eggs in water, so in malaria infested areas work was started on draining marshes, stagnant pools and trying to ensure generally that there were no areas of water where mosquitoes could breed. Where areas of still water could not be drained, they were sometimes covered with oil or detergent, which made them unusable by the mosquitoes. One of the most interesting methods of preventing mosquitoes from multiplying it is to introduce a different variety of mosquito into an area when the two varieties made the females infertile. This kind of biological engineering has had some limited success in the field, but it is not always possible to reproduce laboratory conditions in real life since there are over 2,600 different kinds of mosquitoes. The resource problems are enormous. The most obvious and easiest method of preventing is to use wire screens and mosquito netting to prevent people being bitten. But this may not always be possible in poor areas and does not help when people are moving about, when people have to cover up and or use some kind of protective cream or spray. A more flexible method is to take preventive drugs such as quinine. This drug was at one time extremely widely used, but during the Second World War, most of the supply areas fell to the Japanese and alternative methods had to be found in the West. These drugs proved to be more effective in many ways and the use of quinine tailed away. Recently, however, there have been eradication that certain varieties of malaria germs and becoming more resistant to modern drugs and quinine to coming into use once more. At one time it seemed that insecticides, especially DDT, might wipe out malaria completely.